Before you speak your dreams, pause. Not everyone needs to know your plans, and not everyone will cheer for you. Some will doubt you, some will envy you, and some will quietly hope you fail. Your power grows in silence. Let your actions be the loudest voice. When you share your ideas too early or too widely, you open the door to a flood of opinions, most of which will not help you, and many of which can actually harm your progress. Every person you tell will process your idea through their own experiences, beliefs, and fears. If they've never done what you're trying to do, they might see your vision as unrealistic, risky, or even foolish. They speak from a place of their own limitations, not yours. And here's the problem. When you hear enough of these comments, it's easy for them to take root in your mind, slowly eroding your confidence in what you're building. Imagine planting a small, fragile seed in the ground. At first, it's delicate. It needs the right conditions to grow. If you invite too many people into your garden, each one will have their own opinion on how to water it, how much sunlight it needs, or whether it should even be planted there at all. Before long, they're trampling over the soil, moving things around and disrupting the process. Your seed never gets the chance to grow because it's constantly being disturbed. This is exactly what happens when you let too many voices into your creative or business process. The truth is, people have a natural tendency to project their own fears and failures onto others. If they tried something similar and failed, they might feel the need to warn you, even though your path is completely different. If they've never taken a big risk in their lives, they might label your ambition as too much or unrealistic, not because it truly is, but because their own comfort zone won't allow them to imagine it. And while some of these people might mean well, the effect on you is the same. Doubt creeps in. You start second-guessing your strategy, changing your plans to please others, or hesitating to take the bold steps you originally envisioned. There's also the issue of mixed signals. When you have too many people giving input, you end up with 100 different directions to choose from. One person will tell you to move fast and take risks. Another will tell you to slow down and wait for the right moment. Someone will say to focus on one thing. Someone else will insist you should diversify. This conflicting advice doesn't give you clarity. It leaves you stuck in analysis paralysis. Instead of moving forward with focus and confidence, you're constantly weighing other people's opinions, wasting precious energy that could be spent actually executing your plan. Another hidden danger is that some people simply won't want to see you succeed. It might not be obvious. They may smile to your face while quietly hoping you fail. This isn't always because of malice. Sometimes it's because your ambition shines a light on their own lack of action. Your progress reminds them of what they haven't done, and instead of being inspired, they feel threatened. In subtle ways, they might downplay your ideas, highlight potential problems, or remind you of every possible obstacle. These negative seeds, once planted in your mind, can grow into hesitation, fear, and self-doubt. When you're working on something new, whether it's a business, a creative project, or a personal goal, it's still forming in your mind. It's fragile, untested, and vulnerable. The early stages are when it needs your full protection. This is when you need to trust your own instincts more than anyone else's. You can't let your direction be swayed by people who aren't invested in your vision the way you are. That's why it's better to share selectively, only with people whose judgment you trust, whose experience is relevant, and whose intentions are genuinely supportive. Ultimately, too many opinions can make you lose sight of the original reason you started in the first place. You began with a clear sense of purpose and excitement, but with every comment, warning, and unsolicited piece of advice, that clarity gets clouded. Instead of building according to your vision, you start building according to everyone else's fears and preferences. And when you create something based on 100 different voices, it often loses the very spark that made it unique in the first place. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones who share every thought with the world. They are the ones who protect their vision until it's strong enough to withstand criticism. They seek feedback, yes, but in a focused and deliberate way, from people who actually know what they're talking about. They understand that the wrong kind of input at the wrong time can kill momentum faster than failure ever could. So protect your ideas in their early stages. Nurture them in silence. Test them in action, not in conversation. When they are ready, when they are strong enough to stand on their own, then and only then can you let the results speak for themselves. Because by that time, it won't matter how many opinions come your way. Your work will be too real, too tangible, and too successful for anyone to deny. When you announce your plans to the world, there's an immediate rush of excitement. You tell a friend, a family member, or post it online, and people respond with enthusiasm. "That's amazing! You're gonna do great. I'm so proud of you." For a moment, it feels like you've already achieved something significant. You get a surge of validation. a warm sense of accomplishment, and a boost to your ego. But here's the problem. This feeling is deceptive. It tricks your brain into thinking you've already done part of the work, when in reality nothing has been built yet. You've only spoken the words, not lived them. Psychologists call this phenomenon social reality. The moment you announce your intentions publicly, your brain starts to perceive your goals as partially complete, simply because you've verbalized them and received recognition. That premature reward can reduce the urgency to actually follow through. You begin to feel satisfied without having taken the steps that satisfaction is meant to come from. Instead of channeling that excitement into action, you start living in the fantasy of what you've told people you will do. This is one of the reasons why so many people make bold declarations but never follow through. The initial high they get from talking about their dreams replaces the natural drive to work quietly and persistently. The applause becomes a substitute for progress. The mind is clever in this way. It loves shortcuts to feeling good. And once it gets a taste of external validation, it often starts seeking that validation again, instead of seeking real results. The danger is that this creates a cycle. You make an announcement, feel the rush, slow down in your efforts, then months later make another announcement about a new idea, chasing the same emotional high. Over time, you become more addicted to talking about change than actually making it. You get caught in a loop of verbal ambition, where your energy is drained by conversation instead of action. There's also a social pressure element. The moment you tell people what you're going to do, they start asking questions. How's that going? Have you started yet? What's the progress? At first, this might seem like accountability, but more often than not, it turns into stress. If you've made little progress, you feel embarrassed. If you've hit setbacks, you feel the need to explain yourself. This constant need to report on something that's still in the fragile building stage can become exhausting. And that exhaustion eats away at the energy you should be spending on actual execution. When you keep your plans private, you protect your drive from these distractions. There's no false sense of accomplishment because there's no audience giving you premature applause. The satisfaction comes only from real progress. Taking steps, solving problems, overcoming obstacles. You don't waste time trying to manage other people's expectations or explaining why things are taking longer than planned. Instead, you're fully immersed in the work itself, which naturally builds momentum. The truth is, action requires energy, and talking about action consumes it. Every conversation about your plans takes mental effort. You explain your vision, defend your ideas, answer questions, and address doubts. This is energy that could have been invested directly into building, testing, and refining your idea. Over time, even small amounts of wasted energy accumulate, leaving you with less drive to push through the hard parts of your journey. There's also something powerful about the element of surprise. When no one knows what you're working on, there's no noise, no interference, and no premature praise. You're free to operate in a pure state of focus, where the only validation you seek is from the results you produce. And when those results finally appear, they speak for themselves. People are not just impressed, they are shocked, because they had no idea what was coming. That kind of reaction is far more powerful than any applause you could have received from announcing your plans too early. If you've ever found yourself excited about a goal but noticed your motivation fading after talking about it, this is the reason. The satisfaction you're craving is meant to come at the end of the journey, not at the beginning. Talking about it too soon robs you of the hunger that drives sustained effort. That hunger is essential. It's what pushes you to work late, to persist through setbacks, to keep going when things get hard. When you let words replace work, you weaken that inner fire. The lesson here is simple: let your actions create the story, not your announcements. Work quietly, build momentum in silence, and let the reward of finishing fuel you, not the illusion of progress that comes from talking about it. The less you say, the more energy you keep for what actually matters. And when the day comes that your goal is fully realized, you'll have the satisfaction of knowing that you earned every bit of it through effort, not just words. Not everyone who smiles at you is rooting for you. Some people, even those close to you, carry unspoken envy when they see you striving for something greater. It's not always because they're bad people. Sometimes it's because your ambition reminds them of what they haven't done, the risks they didn't take, or the dreams they let fade. Instead of feeling inspired, they feel exposed. Your progress becomes a mirror reflecting their inaction, and for some, that's uncomfortable to face. This discomfort can take subtle forms. It might be a faint pause before they congratulate you, or a backhanded compliment that downplays your achievement. They might say things like, "That's great, but you know it's really hard to make money doing that," or "Don't get your hopes up too much." On the surface, these comments sound harmless, maybe even like they're being realistic. but underneath, they're planting seeds of doubt. And those seeds, if you're not careful, can take root in your mind, making you second-guess your vision. The truth is, some people measure their own worth by comparing themselves to those around them. When you start breaking away from the pack, pursuing goals, improving yourself, or aiming for a lifestyle they can't imagine, it disrupts the balance they've grown comfortable with. They might not consciously decide to undermine you, but their behavior starts shifting. Instead of celebrating your wins, they minimize them. Instead of encouraging your ideas, they point out every possible flaw. Instead of supporting your effort, they remind you of every person who tried and failed. It's important to understand that this kind of energy is toxic to your momentum. The early stages of any goal are fragile. You're still building confidence, still testing your limits, still believing in something that hasn't fully materialized yet. If you surround yourself with people who secretly want you to stumble, their doubt can chip away at your drive before it has the chance to solidify. Sometimes the envy is less subtle. Certain individuals may actively try to pull you off course. They might distract you with unnecessary drama, criticize you behind your back, or give advice designed to steer you in the wrong direction. They might even pretend to support you publicly while undermining you privately. This can be especially dangerous when it comes from people you trust, because you're more likely to let your guard down and take their words to heart. The most painful part is that this doesn't always come from strangers. It can come from coworkers, relatives, or friends you've known for years. You might expect support from them, but instead you get resistance. This is why it's crucial to pay attention not to what people say, but to how they behave. Are they genuinely happy when you make progress? Or do they quickly change the subject? Do they encourage you to keep going? Or do they bring up obstacles every time you talk about your plans? Protecting yourself from this kind of negativity doesn't mean cutting everyone out of your life. It means being selective about what you share and with whom. You don't need to broadcast your every move. Share your goals with people who have proven they want the best for you, and whose own actions show they're working towards something meaningful themselves. People who are secure in their own path will never feel threatened by yours. One of the strongest moves you can make is to let your results speak before your plans ever do. When you keep your progress quiet until it's undeniable, you give less opportunity for others to inject doubt. By the time they see what you've built, it's already too late for their negativity to derail you. The reality is that some people will always be more comfortable watching you stay the same than watching you grow. Your success challenges their sense of normal, and not everyone is ready for that. You can't control their feelings, but you can control your environment. Protect your vision. Guard your energy. Surround yourself with those who celebrate your wins without hesitation, who push you forward when you hesitate, and who believe in your potential even when you're still figuring it out yourself. Because when it comes to chasing big dreams, the difference between making it and giving up often comes down to one thing. Whether you allowed the wrong voices to plant doubt in your mind, or whether you chose to move forward in spite of them. And if you want to win, you can't let someone else's envy write your story. Your vision is yours for a reason. It was born from your experiences, your values, your observations, and the way your mind connects ideas that others may not even notice. The picture you see in your head, the end result you're working toward, is shaped by countless moments in your life that no one else has lived. That's why, when you share your dream, you often get blank stares, confused expressions, or even outright skepticism. People can't fully understand something they've never imagined for themselves, and they shouldn't be expected to. When you explain your dream to someone, you're describing it in words, but they can only hear those words through the filter of their own mindset. If their thinking is limited, they will imagine a smaller, safer version of what you mean. If they've never taken risks, they might think your idea is reckless. If they've never succeeded in the way you're aiming for, they might quietly assume it can't be done. It's not that they're trying to bring you down. Sometimes they genuinely can't see the possibility the way you do. Their perspective is simply different, and that's okay. The danger comes when you start letting those outside perspectives reshape your own. In the early stages of a dream, your vision is like a spark. It's alive, but it's delicate. It needs fuel, not wind. When you share your ideas too widely, you invite opinions from people who may unintentionally smother that spark. They'll point out problems you've already considered, highlight risks you've already accepted, or suggest compromises that dilute what you're aiming for. Slowly, if you're not careful, you start adjusting your vision to fit their comfort zones instead of your own ambitions. It's also worth remembering that your dream might feel unrealistic to someone who hasn't seen the work you're putting in behind the scenes. They might think you're chasing something impossible, but they don't see the nights you've stayed up researching, the skills you've been quietly developing, or the small wins you've been stacking up in private. They only see the big, bold statement of your goal without the context of the process. And without that context, it's easy for them to underestimate both your ability and your determination. That's why your vision needs protection. You don't need everyone to understand it, agree with it, or even believe in it. You only need to believe in it yourself and keep moving forward, step by step. The people who are meant to be part of your journey will reveal themselves over time. They're the ones who encourage you, without needing every detail explained, who trust your judgment even when they don't fully see the destination. Those are the people worth sharing with. When you hold your vision close, you give yourself room to let it grow naturally. You can adapt and refine it based on real-world feedback from your actions, rather than premature criticism from people who aren't invested in your success. You also preserve the excitement and curiosity that comes from working on something quietly. There's a certain magic in knowing that what you're building is still unseen by the world, and that one day, you'll unveil it fully formed. Your vision is like a language only you can speak fluently right now. Over time, as you make progress, others will start to understand it. Not because you've explained it perfectly, but because they'll see it taking shape in reality. At that point, their belief will grow, because it's no longer just an idea in your mind. It's something tangible, undeniable, and alive in front of them. Until that moment comes, trust your own sight more than anyone else's. Remember that you don't owe anyone an explanation, and you don't need their approval to keep going. What matters is that you keep seeing the vision clearly in your own mind and aligning your actions to bring it into the world. The more you focus on what's in front of you, rather than trying to convince others, the faster you'll get there. Your dream doesn't need to make sense to anyone else. It only needs to make sense to you. The world will understand it later. For now, protect it, nurture it, and work on it in silence. Because what you see in your mind today could be the reality everyone sees tomorrow. Fear of judgment is one of the most silent and dangerous forces that can hold you back from achieving your goals. It creeps in subtly, often disguised as a desire for feedback or approval. But deep down, it's about wanting reassurance from others before you take action. You might tell yourself you're just being practical by sharing your plans early, but if you look closer, it's often a way to test how people will react before you fully commit. This habit can become a trap, because the more you rely on other people's opinions, the less you trust your own instincts. When you share your goals out of fear, you're essentially asking, do you think this is okay for me to do? It puts the power in someone else's hands. If they approve, you feel confident, temporarily. But if they question you, doubt you, or dismiss your idea, your confidence can collapse instantly. Over time, this dependency on external validation makes it harder to move forward without permission, and you start building your decisions around avoiding criticism instead of chasing what you actually want. The problem is that other people's opinions are shaped by their own fears, limitations, and life experiences. What seems risky to them might be exactly what you need to grow. What they think is unrealistic might be completely achievable for you. But when fear of judgment dominates your thinking, you take their words as truth instead of just one perspective. Slowly, you may start adjusting your vision to make it more acceptable or reasonable, and in the process, you water down the very dream that excited you in the first place. Fear-driven sharing also has another effect. It can make you overly defensive. When you reveal a plan before it's ready and someone questions it, you might find yourself spending more time justifying your choices than actually taking steps to make them happen. You get stuck in endless explanations, trying to convince others to believe in something they can't fully see yet. This drains your energy and shifts your focus away from execution. The truth is, no matter what you do, some people will judge you. If you play it safe, some will think you lack ambition. If you take risks, others will think you're reckless. If you succeed, some will think you got lucky. If you fail, some will think they were right about you. Trying to avoid judgment is a losing game, because you can't control how people perceive you. The only thing you can control is your own commitment to the path you've chosen. The most dangerous part of fear of judgment is that it keeps you in a cycle of hesitation. Instead of acting boldly, you delay decisions, waiting for the right moment when you feel confident enough to handle criticism. But that moment rarely comes, because confidence grows through action, not approval. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes to take the leap. The way to break free from this is to trust your own reasoning more than the opinions of people who aren't living your life. You can still seek advice, but do it intentionally. Ask people who have achieved what you're aiming for, not those who've never stepped outside their comfort zone. Listen to feedback, but filter it through your own values and goals. And most importantly, learn to move forward, even if nobody else understands your vision yet. When you stop sharing your plans out of fear and start acting out of confidence, everything changes. You make decisions based on what feels right for you, not what will earn the least criticism. You move faster because you're not constantly pausing to see if others approve. You stop playing small just to fit into someone else's idea of what's normal. Judgment is inevitable, but regret is optional. You can spend your life trying to please people who will never truly see your vision, or you can protect that vision and bring it to life on your own terms. The people who matter will respect your courage, and the ones who don't were never meant to shape your path in the first place. Your dreams deserve to be built on confidence, not fear, and the sooner you let go of needing everyone's approval, the sooner you'll be free to chase them fully. In a world where everyone is constantly announcing their goals, posting updates, and sharing every small step online, the element of surprise has become rare. Yet there's a quiet kind of power in working silently and letting your results do the talking. When you hold back from announcing every detail, you give yourself the space to focus entirely on the process, free from the noise of outside opinions, distractions, and expectations. By the time people notice, your success is already in motion, undeniable and tangible. Talking too much about what you plan to do can create a false sense of progress. When you tell people your ambitions, your brain gets a small dopamine boost, almost as if you've already achieved something. You feel good just from the recognition or praise you get, which can trick you into believing you're further along than you are. This illusion can reduce your urgency to take real action. On the other hand, when you stay quiet, there's no applause to comfort you. You're driven by the actual work and the desire to see real results. Keeping your plans to yourself also protects you from premature criticism. When you share early, you open the door to opinions from people who may not understand your vision, who may underestimate your abilities, or who may even doubt you altogether. Their skepticism can chip away at your confidence before your idea has had the chance to grow strong enough to withstand it. Walking in silence shields your dream during its most vulnerable stages, allowing it to develop without unnecessary interference. Another advantage of letting results speak for themselves is that it naturally creates a stronger impact. People are far more impressed when they see a finished product, a transformation, or a measurable achievement than when they hear about a plan. Words can be dismissed or forgotten, but results are proof. They can't be argued with because they exist in reality. Whether it's launching a business, achieving a fitness goal, writing a book, or mastering a skill, showing the outcome demonstrates not just your vision but your discipline, consistency, and ability to follow through. Working quietly also keeps your energy focused where it matters, on the actions that produce results. Every conversation explaining your plan is time and energy taken away from actually doing the work. By keeping things private, you avoid the temptation to perform for an audience and instead work for your own satisfaction and standards. You're no longer concerned with how progress looks from the outside. You're focused solely on making sure it's happening on the inside. There's also a psychological benefit to staying quiet. You avoid unnecessary pressure. When you announce your plans, you create public expectations. If you miss a deadline or change direction, you may feel like you've failed in the eyes of others, even if you're still making progress in reality. This pressure can lead to stress, rushed decisions, or abandoning your goals altogether to avoid perceived embarrassment. But when you work privately, you give yourself the freedom to adapt, experiment, and even fail without judgment. When your results finally become visible, the impact is amplified because it comes without warning. People will notice not because you told them to, but because they can see it for themselves. The surprise factor can also inspire others more deeply. Seeing someone quietly work and then suddenly reveal a major achievement shows that real progress doesn't require constant attention or validation. This approach doesn't mean you can't share your achievements at all. It simply means you wait until they are solid enough to speak for themselves. By then, you won't need to convince anyone of your capabilities. Your work will be the proof. And those who doubted you will have no choice but to acknowledge what you've accomplished. The most powerful statement you can make is not a promise, a plan, or a declaration. It's the finished result of your effort. Let people be surprised. Let them wonder how you managed to do it without making noise along the way. And while they're busy talking about it, you can be quietly moving on to the next goal, once again letting your results speak louder than your words. The journey toward your dreams is not a public performance. It's a deeply personal mission. Too many opinions can cloud your vision, talking too much can drain your drive, and fear of judgment can chain you to other people's expectations. Not everyone will want you to win, and most will never see your dream the way you do until it's real. That's why silence is not weakness, it's strategy. Protect your ideas, nurture them in private, and let your actions be the proof. Because when the results finally speak, They speak with a power no words can match.